The distress signal had been repeating for 3 days when finally found the ship. It floated in the dark space between two solar systems, far from any trade route or patrol zone. The vessel was broken in half, its metal skin torn open like paper. Fires had burned out long ago, and now only cold silence remained. Guided her cargo ship closer and checked her scanner. No life signs appeared on the screen. The computer told her that everyone on board was dead. She should have turned away. She should have reported the wreck to the nearest station and continued her delivery run. That was the smart choice. That was the safe choice. But was not always smart or safe. She was human, and humans had a habit of looking closer when they should look away. She put on her spacesuit and crossed over to the broken ship. The inside was dark and her flashlight made long shadows on the walls. She found bodies of adults, the feline-like species known throughout the galaxy for their strength and their temper. They were large creatures, covered in thick fur of gray and brown. Their claws were as long as her fingers, and their teeth could bite through metal. The galaxy feared they called them predators, beasts, monsters. Many stations did not allow them entry. Many planets had laws against them. Walked past the bodies with respect. Whatever these creatures were to others, they were dead now, and the dead deserved peace. She was about to return to her ship when she heard it, a small sound, a tiny cry almost too soft to notice. She stopped and listened. The sound came again, from behind a broken storage container, moved the metal pieces aside and pointed her light into the gap. 3 pairs of eyes looked back at her. Cubs, no bigger than house cats. Their fur was messy and dirty, and they shook with fear. The largest one tried to growl at her, but the sound came out weak and scared. The middle one hid behind its sibling. The smallest one just stared at with wide golden eyes. Felt her heart break in her chest. She knew what she was supposed to do. The law was clear. Were dangerous, even the young ones. She was supposed to report them to the authorities. The station would send a team to collect them. They would be taken to a facility, studied, and probably kept in cages for the rest of their lives. That was the law. That was the rule. Looked at the 3 small creatures shaking in front of her. She looked at the bodies of what must have been their parents. She thought about the cold facilities and the metal cages and the scientists who would treat them like animals. She made her choice. She reached into the gap slowly, carefully. The largest cub tried to scratch her, but its claws were too small to cut through her glove. She spoke to them in a soft voice, the same voice her mother used when was sick as a child. "It is okay," she said. "I will not hurt you, I promise." The cubs did not understand her words, but they seemed to understand her tone. Slowly, the largest one stopped trying to fight. The middle one peeked out from its hiding spot. The smallest one reached toward her hand with a tiny paw. Gathered all 3 of them into her arms. They were light, too light. They had not eaten in days. She carried them back to her ship and sealed the door behind her. In the warm light of her cargo vessel, she could see them better. They were beautiful in their own way. Their fur was soft under the dirt. Their eyes were bright despite their fear. When she offered them food, they ate like they had never seen a meal before. The largest one she named. He was brave and protective, always putting himself between his siblings and any new thing. The middle one she named Minu. He was curious and clever, always watching and learning. The smallest one she named. She was gentle and trusting, the first to approach without fear. As they ate, thought about what she had done. She had broken about 15 different laws. She had taken 3 members of a restricted species onto her ship without permission. If anyone found out, she would lose her pilot license. She might even go to prison. But when finished eating and climbed into her lap, purring softly, could not make herself care about the laws. She sent a message to the nearest station, reporting the wrecked ship but saying nothing about survivors. Then she changed her route, avoiding the busy trade lanes where inspectors might stop her. That night, she made beds for the cubs from old blankets in her storage room. curled up against the wall, still watching the door with suspicious eyes. Minyu explored every corner of the small space before settling down, refused to leave side until sleep finally took her. Sat in the pilot chair and looked at the stars outside her window. She thought about her life before this moment. She had been alone for a long time. Her parents died when she was young. She had no siblings, no partner, no children of her own. She moved cargo from one system to another, making enough money to survive but not enough to truly live. Now she had 3 small creatures depending on her, 3 lives that would end without her care, 3 hearts that beat because she had chosen to look closer instead of looking away. It was terrifying, it was wonderful. She turned off the lights and closed her eyes. Tomorrow she would figure out what to do. Tomorrow she would make plans and solve problems. But tonight she would just rest, knowing that she was no longer alone in the universe. In the storage room, lifted his head and looked toward the door where slept. He did not fully understand what had happened. He did not know why this strange creature had taken them from the cold ship. He did not know where they were going or what would happen next. But he understood one thing. This creature, this human, had saved them. She had fed them and warmed them and spoken to them without anger or fear. She smelled like safety. Made a decision in his young mind. This human was theirs now. She belonged to them and they belonged to her. Whatever happened next, he would protect her just as she had protected them. He laid his head back down and closed his eyes. For the first time since the attack on their ship, slept without nightmares. The stars continued to shine outside, and the small cargo ship continued its journey through the endless dark. Inside, a human and 3 cubs slept peacefully, unaware that their lives had just changed forever. Did not know it yet, but she had started something that would one day shake the foundations of the galaxy. She had done what humans always did. She had taken broken things and loved them until they became strong. And the cubs, raised by human hands and human hearts, would become something the galaxy had never seen before. They would become Earthborn. 5 years passed like water through open fingers. Stopped taking long cargo runs across the galaxy. Instead, she found work near the human colonies, short trips that let her come home every few days. Home was now a small house on the edge of a farming colony called New. The land was green and the air was clean, and most importantly, nobody asked too many questions. The cubs grew fast. In the first year, they went from the size of house cats to the size of large dogs. By the 3rd year, they stood as tall as when they rose on their back legs. Now, at 5 years old, they were fully grown. Was massive. His shoulders were broad and his arms were thick with muscle. His gray fur had darkened with age, and his golden eyes held a sharpness that made strangers nervous. He rarely spoke, but when he did, everyone listened. Minyu was leaner but just as tall. His brown fur had patterns of lighter color that moved when he walked. He was the of the 3, always reading, always learning, always asking questions. He had taught himself to use human computers and could fix almost any machine. Was the smallest, though that word meant little when she still towered over most humans. Her fur was the color of warm sand, and her eyes were kind. She had the gentlest heart, always caring for injured animals she found, always helping the elderly neighbors with their work. They all spoke perfect human language now. They wore clothes made for their bodies. They ate at a table with proper manners. Anyone who saw them from a distance might think they were just another family enjoying a quiet life on a colony world. But not everyone saw them from a distance. The farmers nearby were good people, and over time they had accepted strange family. But visitors were different. When supply ships came to the colony, the crews would stare and whisper. Some were curious, some were afraid, some were angry. One day, a trader from the outer systems came to the colony market. He was a tall alien with blue skin and 4 eyes, and he did not hide his disgust when he saw Minyu helping carry vegetables. "You let those beasts walk free," he said loudly. "Where I come from, we put in cages where they belong." The market went quiet. Everyone watched to see what would happen. Minyu's ears folded back and his claws extended slightly, put her hand on his arm. "Ignore him," she said. "He is not worth your anger." Minyu looked at her for a long moment. Then he pulled his claws back and picked up the basket of vegetables. "Yes, mother," he said, and followed her away from the market. The trader laughed. "Mother, you call that thing your son? Humans are even weaker than I thought." Appeared from between two stalls. He had not been there a moment before, but now he stood directly in front of the trader. He did not speak. He did not growl. He simply looked at the alien with his golden eyes, and the trader went pale. "I am sorry," the trader said quickly. "I meant no offense, please." Turned and walked away without a word. The trader left the colony that same day and never returned. That night the family sat around the dinner table, had made soup with meat and vegetables, the cubs' favorite meal. They ate in silence for a while before spoke. "Why do they hate us, Mother?" she asked. "We have never hurt anyone. We follow all the rules. Why do they look at us like we are monsters?" Put down her spoon. This was a conversation she had been dreading for years. She looked at her 3 children, these beautiful creatures she had raised from helpless cubs. "Some people fear what they do not understand," she said. "They have a history of violence. Many years ago, before you were born, there were wars between your species and others. Many people died. That fear has passed down through generations." "But we are not those," Minyu said. "We have never killed anyone. We have never even hurt anyone." "I know," said, "and I know, but fear does not always make sense. It does not care about who you are. It only cares about what it remembers." Had not spoken during the meal. Now he looked up from his bowl. "Then we will make them remember something new," he said. "We will show them what can be when they are raised with love instead of war." Felt tears form in her eyes. She reached across the table and took massive paw in her small human hand. "I am so proud of you," she said. "All of you. You are the best thing that ever happened to me." Stood up and walked around the table to hug. Minyu joined her a moment later. Even, who rarely showed emotion, came to wrap his arms around his family. They stayed like that for a long time, a human woman and her 3 children, holding each other against a galaxy that feared them. The years continued to pass. The cubs trained their bodies and their minds, became stronger than any on record, but he used his strength to help build houses and carry supplies for neighbors. Minyu became brilliant with technology, and he helped the colony improve their farming systems. Became skilled in medicine, learning from the colony doctor how to treat injuries and illnesses. They were good children. No, they were great children, could not have asked for better. But she knew that their peaceful life could not last forever. Every year, the galactic government increased restrictions on. Every year, more species called for them to be controlled, contained, removed. The fear was growing, not fading. One evening, received a message on her computer. It was from the Colonial Transport Authority. Her pilot license was up for renewal, and she needed to pass through a border checkpoint for verification. She stared at the message for a long time. Border checkpoints meant scanners. Scanners meant records. Records meant questions about the 3 unregistered living in her home. She had avoided this moment for 5 years. Now it had finally caught up to her. She closed the message and walked to the window. Outside, she could see and Minyu sparring in the yard while watched and laughed. They moved like dancers, powerful and graceful, their claws flashing in the evening light. They were not cubs anymore. They were warriors. They were scholars. They were healers. They were everything had hoped they could become. And now she had to take them through a checkpoint that might tear their family apart. She made her decision. She would tell them tonight. They would face this together as they faced everything. Whatever happened at the checkpoint, they would not run. They would not hide. They would stand tall and show the galaxy what an Earthborn family looked like. opened the door and called her children inside for dinner. They came running, laughing, pushing each other playfully as they always did, pretended to be annoyed when Minyu jumped on his back, scolded them both while trying not to smile. For this one moment, let herself forget the message. She let herself enjoy the sound of her family laughing together. She let herself believe that everything would be okay. Tomorrow she would tell them about the checkpoint. Tomorrow they would make plans and prepare for the worst. But tonight, they were just a family, happy and whole and full of love. The galaxy might fear them. The galaxy might hate them. But the galaxy had never seen what love could create. Soon it would learn. The border station hung in space like a giant metal flower. Its arms stretched outward in 6 directions, each one ending in a docking port where ships waited in line. Lights blinked along its surface, red and yellow and white, signals that told pilots where to go and how to behave. Guided her cargo ship into the queue and waited. Behind her, in the main cabin, stood by the window and watched the station grow larger. Minyu sat at a console, his fingers moving across the keyboard as he studied the station's public records, paced back and forth, her tail swishing nervously. They have 12 security teams, Minyu reported. Full weapons, combat armor, and their scanner system is military grade. Can you fool it? Asked. Minyu shook his head. Not without access to their main computer, and getting that access would require me to leave the ship. Turned from the window. Then we do not fool it, we walk through honestly and see what happens. Stop packing. What if they arrest us? What if they take Mother away? They will not take her, said. His voice was calm, but his claws had extended slightly. I will not allow it. No one is getting arrested, said firmly. She stood up from the pilot chair and faced her children. We have done nothing wrong. Yes, I brought you home without permission. Yes, you are not registered with the authority, but you have lived peacefully for 5 years. You have helped your community. You have hurt no one. The law does not care about those things, Minyu said quietly. Then we will make them care. Took a deep breath. We will walk through that station with our heads high. We will answer their questions honestly. And if they try to separate us, we will fight through every legal channel available until we are together again. Came to stand beside her mother. And if legal channels do not work? Looked at her daughter's gentle face. Then we will find another way. I did not raise you to give up. I raised you to face your problems and solve them. The comm system crackled to life. Cargo Vessel New 7, you are cleared to dock at Port 4. Prepare for inspection upon arrival. Returned to the pilot's seat and guided the ship toward the port. Through the front window, she could see armed soldiers standing on the docking platform. Their armor was black, and their weapons were large and visible. They were a species known for their strict military culture and their hatred of anything they considered dangerous. The ship locked into place with a heavy sound, powered down the engines and stood up. She straightened her clothes and brushed her hair back from her face. When she turned around, her children were standing in a line, waiting for her. Was in front, his massive form almost touching the ceiling. His expression was blank, controlled. Minyu stood behind him, his eyes moving constantly, reading the situation. Was at the back, her hands clasped in front of her, trying to look small and harmless. Together, said, always together. Always, they answered as one. She opened the ship's door and walked down the ramp. Her children followed in single file. The soldiers tensed when they saw the weapons were raised slightly, not quite aiming but ready to fire at any moment. The lead soldier, a tall female with gray scales and cold eyes, stepped forward. I am Commander, she said. Your ship and passengers will be scanned and inspected. Any resistance will be met with force. Do you understand? We understand, said. We will cooperate fully. Commander looked past her at the 3. Those creatures. They are not in our records. They have no registration codes. They are my children, said. They have lived with me since they were cubs. Children, the commander made a sound that might have been a laugh, are not children, they are predators. They are weapons waiting to be used. His ears folded back, but he did not speak. He had promised his mother he would stay calm. The commander pressed a button on her wrist device. A beam of blue light shot out and swept across from head to foot. Then it moved to menu, then two. The device made a series of beeping sounds, and then a screen appeared in the air showing the results. Commander's eyes widened. "What is it?" one of the soldiers asked. "The scanner," the commander said slowly. "It has classified them as Earthborn." A murmur went through the soldiers. The word passed from mouth to mouth like a virus. Earthborn, Earthborn, Earthborn. Had heard the term before, but only in rumors. It was a classification used for alien species that had been raised entirely by humans, away from their own kind. The galactic government considered such creatures unpredictable and dangerous, not because of what they were, but because of what they had become. "What does that mean for us?" asked. Commander lowered her scanner and looked at with something new in her eyes, not just anger now, fear. "It means they are contaminated. Human influence has changed their development, their instincts, their behavior patterns, their responses. They are no longer true, they are something else, something unknown." "They are still my children," said. "They have not changed." "But they have." The commander stepped closer, her soldiers following behind her. "Regular are predictable, they attack when threatened, they protect their territory, they follow instinct. But Earthborn creatures do not follow those patterns. They think like humans, they feel like humans, and that makes them dangerous in ways we cannot measure." Stepped forward, her voice soft and careful. "Please, Commander, we do not want trouble, we just want to pass through and continue our lives. We have never hurt anyone." One of the soldiers laughed. "Yet, you have never hurt anyone yet." Growled, a low sound deep in his chest. The soldiers raised their weapons immediately. Said sharply, "Calm down." The growl stopped, took a slow breath and forced his claws to retract. "I am sorry, Mother, I am calm now." Commander watched this exchange with narrow eyes. "He obeys you, he calls you Mother. This is exactly what the reports warned about. Human bonding changes them. It makes them loyal in ways that conflict with proper control measures." "Is loyalty a crime now?" Minyu asked. "Silence," the commander snapped. "You do not speak unless I give permission." She turned to one of her soldiers. "Contact headquarters. Tell them we have 3 Earthborn at Checkpoint 7. Request instructions for containment and transport." Felt ice form in her stomach. "Transport, where are you taking them?" "That is not your concern," Commander said. "You will be detained for questioning about how you acquired these creatures. Your pilot license will be revoked. Depending on what we learn, you may face charges for illegal possession and trafficking of restricted species." "This is wrong," said. "They are not possessions, they are people, they are my family." "Under galactic law, do not qualify as people," the commander said. "They are classified as dangerous fauna. Your emotional attachment does not change their legal status." The soldier returned from the comm station. "Headquarters has replied, Commander. They want all 4 subjects brought to the Central Processing Center. A containment team is on the way." Commander nodded. "You heard the orders, prepare transport." Looked at her children, was shaking with the effort of staying still. Minyu's eyes were calculating, looking for options, finding none, had tears running down her furry cheeks. This was the moment had feared for 5 years. The moment when the galaxy would try to take her children away. The moment when all her love and sacrifice would mean nothing against the cold machinery of law and fear. But as the soldiers moved closer, weapons raised, saw something change in its golden eyes. The controlled calm was fading. Something older was rising in its place. Something fierce and protective and unafraid. He had made a promise 5 years ago in a cold storage room. He had promised to protect the human who saved them. And never broke his promises. The soldiers moved forward with practiced steps. Two of them reached for arms, ready to pull her away from her children and drag her to the detention cells. Their hands were rough, their grip strong, and they did not care that they were handling a person like she was cargo. They never got the chance to touch her. Moved faster than any of them expected. One moment he was standing still, controlled and calm. The next moment he was between and the soldiers, his massive body blocking their path. He rose to his full height on his back legs, and suddenly he was taller than anyone in the room. His claws extended, each one longer than a knife. His teeth showed, white and sharp and deadly. The soldiers stumbled backward, raising their weapons. "Do not touch her," said. His voice was quiet, but it filled the entire docking bay. Minyu moved next. He stepped around to his right side, placing himself between her and the soldiers there. He was not as large as, but his eyes held a dangerous light. His body was tense, ready to spring in any direction. "Mother stays with us," Minyu said. "That is not a request." Completed the circle. She took her position at its left, her gentle face now hard with determination. Her claws were out, her ears flat against her head. She did not speak, but her message was clear. The three had formed a wall of fur and muscle and teeth around their human mother. They stood on their hind legs, their paws raised, ready to fight and die for the woman who had saved them. Commander Scales had gone pale. She had seen before. She had fought them in border conflicts. She knew how dangerous they were, but she had never seen anything like this. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "Stand down immediately or we will open fire." Looked at her with eyes that held no fear. "Then open fire," he said. "But know this, before we fall we will take many of you with us. And even if you kill us, even if you burn this station to ash, our mother will remain standing. Because that is what we exist for. That is why we breathe, to protect her." The soldiers looked at each other nervously. They had weapons, they had armor, they had training. But the three creatures in front of them were something outside their experience, were supposed to be wild, ruled by instinct, easy to predict. These were something else entirely. These were Earthborn. "This is madness," Commander said. "You cannot win. Even if you defeat us, more soldiers will come. The entire station will lock down. You will be hunted across the galaxy." "Then we will be hunted," Minyu said. "We have spent our entire lives being feared and hated for what we are. Being hunted is not new. Being separated from our mother is new. And that is something we will not allow." Finally spoke. Her voice was steady, though her heart was pounding in her chest. "Commander, please listen to me. Look at what is happening here. My children are not attacking. They are defending. There is a difference." "They are threatening my soldiers," the commander said. "Only because your soldiers threatened me first." Stepped forward, and her children shifted to stay around her. "When those men reached for me, my children reacted. That is not predator behavior. That is family behavior. That is love." Commander stared at her. "Love? You think these beasts are capable of love?" "I know they are," looked up at, who stood beside her like a living fortress. "I raised them. I watched them grow. I saw learn to control his anger so he would not frighten the neighbor children. I saw Minyu stay up all night fixing a farmer's broken water pump because the farmer could not afford repairs. I saw cry for 3 days when a stray animal she was treating finally died." She turned back to the commander. "These are not beasts. These are good people. Better people than most humans I have known. They just happen to have fur and claws and teeth." The docking bay was silent. The soldiers kept their weapons raised, but their hands were not as steady as before. The commander's cold expression had cracked slightly. "The law is clear," Commander said, but her voice was less certain now. "Laws can be changed," said. "Laws are made by people and people make mistakes. 50 years ago, my species had laws that said some humans were not really people. We were wrong. We changed those laws. Your species can change too." One of the younger soldiers lowered his weapon slightly. "Commander, Maybe we should wait for the containment team. Let them decide what to do." "Quiet," the commander said, but she did not sound angry. She sounded tired. Spoke for the first time since the standoff began. Her voice was soft and gentle, the same voice she used when comforting scared patients. "Commander, we do not want to hurt anyone. We never have. All we want is to live our lives and take care of our mother. Is that really so dangerous?" The commander looked at the young. Eyes were wet with tears, but she had not backed down. She stood ready to fight, ready to die, for the same woman she wanted to protect. "I have fought before," Commander said slowly. "On the outer colonies during the territorial wars, they were vicious. They killed without hesitation. They felt no remorse." "We are not those," said. "No," the commander took a deep breath. "No, you are not." She lowered her weapon. The soldiers looked at her in shock. "Commander," one of them said. "Stand down," Commander ordered. "All units lower your weapons." "But the regulations," another soldier protested. "I said stand down." The commander's voice was hard again, but this time it was directed at her own people. One by one, the soldiers obeyed. Did not move from his position. "What happens now?" he asked. Commander looked at him, this massive creature who had been ready to fight an army for the sake of one small human woman. "Now I contact headquarters and tell them there has been a mistake. The scanner malfunctioned. There are no Earthborn at this station. There is only a human cargo pilot and her 3 registered emotional support animals." Minyu blinked. Emotional support animals. It is a legal category that allows certain species to travel with their human companions. The commander's mouth curved in something that was almost a smile. "The paperwork is complicated, but I know people who can make it happen quickly." Felt tears running down her face. Why are you helping us?" Commander was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I had a daughter once. During the territorial wars, a raider destroyed the transport ship she was on. I have hated your children's species ever since." She looked at Minyu but hatred should not blind us to truth. And the truth is that these 3 creatures were willing to die for you. That is not something beasts do. That is something family does. She turned to her soldiers. "Clear the docking bay. Give them privacy to return to their ship. And if anyone asks, you saw nothing unusual here today." The soldiers filed out. Commander was the last to leave. At the door, she paused and looked back at. "Take care of them," she said. "The galaxy is not ready for what they represent, but maybe someday it will be." Then she was gone and was alone with her children. Finally lowered his arms. His claws retracted. His body sagged with exhaustion from the tension. Minyu did the same, all 3 of them suddenly looking like tired children instead of fearsome warriors. Opened her arms and they came to her. She held them as they cried, these beautiful, powerful creatures who had been ready to burn down the galaxy for her. She stroked their fur and whispered soft words and promised them that everything would be okay. And for the first time in 5 years, she actually believed it. The story spread across the galaxy like fire in dry grass. No one knew who started talking first. Maybe it was one of the soldiers who had been there. Maybe it was a technician who saw the security footage before it was deleted. Maybe it was Commander herself, sharing the story with someone she trusted. Whatever the source, the story escaped the border station and began its journey through space. It passed from ship to ship, from station to station, from planet to planet. By the time a month had passed, everyone in the civilized galaxy had heard some version of what happened at Checkpoint 7. 3 had stood against an armed security team. 3 supposed beasts, 3 dangerous predators had risen on their back legs and formed a wall around a single human woman. They had been ready to fight. They had been ready to die, not for territory, not for food, not for any of the reasons we're supposed to fight. They had done it for love. The Galactic News Network sent reporters to find the family. They tracked ship to 100 different ports, but always arrived too late. The family was running, staying one step ahead of the attention they had never wanted. Politicians argued about what the story meant. Some said it proved that all restricted species should be released from control, given the chance to integrate into society. Others said it proved the opposite, that human influence on alien species created unpredictable results that threatened public safety. The debates filled every channel and every feed for weeks. But the common people did not debate. They simply shared the story and felt something change inside them. On a mining colony near the outer rim, a young girl asked her father why the next door was kept in a cage. The father did not have a good answer. That night, he opened the cage door. On a trading station in the Central Systems, a group of soldiers stopped harassing a family of merchants. When their commander asked why, they said they did not want to be the kind of people who separated families. On Earth itself, the human parliament received more messages about alien rights in 1 month than they had received in the previous 10 years. Students marched in the streets of every major city. Old laws were questioned. New proposals were written. The galaxy was waking up. Did not know any of this. She was too busy keeping her family safe, jumping from system to system, avoiding the reporters and the politicians and anyone else who wanted a piece of her story. She was tired and scared and running out of money. They stopped at a small station to refuel. It was a quiet place, far from the main routes, populated mostly by retired miners and their families. Hoped they could stay hidden here for a few days while she figured out their next move. She was wrong. When she walked into the station's only market, every eye turned toward her. She froze, her hand reaching for the weapon she kept hidden under her jacket. Behind her, Minu and tensed and prepared for trouble. An old human man stepped forward from the crowd. He had white hair and deep wrinkles, and he walked with the help of a metal cane. He stopped in front of and looked up at her with eyes that had seen 100 years of life. "Are you her?" he asked. "The one from the story, the mother of the Earthborn?" Did not know what to say. Admitting the truth might bring more trouble. Lying felt wrong. Answered for her, he stepped forward and stood beside his mother. "Yes," he said, "she is the one, and we are her children." The old man smiled. It was a warm smile full of kindness and something else, something like hope. "Then welcome," he said. "You are safe here." The crowd parted and saw what lay beyond. Tables had been set up in the market square, covered with food and drinks. Banners hung from the ceiling, painted with words she could not read from this distance. Children stood on their toes to see the famous who had the galaxy for their mother. "What is this?" asked. "A celebration," the old man said. "When we heard you might be passing through this sector, we prepared a welcome. We wanted you to know that not everyone in the galaxy fears what you have done. Some of us admire it. Some of us have been waiting our whole lives to see proof that love is stronger than law." Felt her legs grow weak. She had been running so long, fighting so hard, that she had forgotten what kindness felt like. Caught her before she could fall. "Mother, are you okay?" "I am fine," said, though tears were streaming down her face. "I am just very, very tired." The old man reached out and took her hand. "Then rest, daughter. You have earned it." They stayed at the station for 3 days. The people fed them, sheltered them, and asked nothing in return except stories. They wanted to hear about the cubs when they were small. They wanted to know how had taught them to speak. They wanted to understand what it meant to raise children from another species. On the second night, a young woman approached Minu and asked if he would help her fix a broken generator. He worked on it for hours, and when it was done, she hugged him and called him a good person. Minu did not know how to respond. No one outside his family had ever called him a person before. On the third day, a delegation arrived at the station. They were not soldiers or reporters. They were lawyers, human lawyers, carrying documents and data pads and official seals. "We represent the Earthborn Rights Coalition," their leader said. She was a tall woman with dark skin and gray streaks in her hair. "We have been working for the past month to change the laws that classify your children as dangerous fauna, and this morning we succeeded." She handed a data pad. On the screen was an official document from the Galactic Council. As of today, Earthborn individuals are legally recognized as persons with full rights under galactic law. They cannot be caged, controlled, or separated from their families. They are free. Read the words 3 times before she believed them. Then she looked at Menu. They were staring at the document with expressions of shock and wonder. "We are people," whispered. "Officially, legally, we are people." "You were always people," said. "Now the galaxy finally admits it." Was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to the lawyer. "Why did you do this? You do not know us. We are nothing to you." The lawyer smiled. "When I was a child, my grandmother told me stories about Earth, about how humans used to treat each other as less than people because of their skin color or their birthplace or their beliefs. She told me how we changed, slowly, painfully, one law at a time. She said that the true measure of a civilization is how it treats those it fears." She looked at with respect. "Your family showed the galaxy what it means to love someone different from yourself. The least we could do was make sure that love was protected by law." That night, and her children stood on the observation deck of the station and watched the stars. They did not need to run anymore. They did not need to hide. They were free, legally and completely, for the first time in their lives. "What do we do now?" Minu asked. Thought about the question. She thought about the past 5 years, the struggles and the fears and the countless moments of doubt. She thought about the old man who welcomed them. She thought about the lawyer who fought for them. She thought about all the people across the galaxy who had heard their story and felt something change inside them. "We go home," she said. "We go back to new and we live our lives, but not just for ourselves, for everyone like us, for every family that is different, for every child who does not fit." She looked at her 3 beautiful children, standing tall against the backdrop of infinite stars. "We show them what Earthborn means. We show them that love creates strength. We show them that family is not about blood or species or where you come from. Family is about choice. Family is about standing together when the galaxy tries to tear you apart." Put his massive paw on shoulder. "She is ours," he said softly, echoing words he had spoken at the checkpoint. "And we are hers." "Forever," Minu added. "Always," finished. Smiled and leaned against her children. Outside the window, the stars burned bright and eternal, watching over a galaxy that had just taken one more step toward becoming what it was always meant to be. A galaxy where love won,